Hi everyone, John here from All Miniatures Great and Small, and today we're doing another unit overview. We are looking at the Hungarian Turan tank. So the Turan tank is interesting. It's another one of those Hungarian homegrown designs that is, although I don't think it's as cool as the Zrínyi, I think it's still a pretty cool looking tank, and I think it gives you some cool options in building forces for the Hungarians. All right, so it's a little guy. I mean, it's not a huge tank. It's, you know, similar to a Sherman, a Panzer IV as far as its purpose. It's just a medium tank. It is, it comes in two versions. The Turan 1 has a 40 millimeter gun, and the Turan 2 has a 75 millimeter gun. So we'll talk about those differences in just a minute, but let's talk about the other stats. The Turan is hit on 4. It's careful, just like most of the, if not all of the Hungarians, they're hit on 4s. Armor is 5, 2, and 1. The 5 front armor is it's problematic at best because there is a lot of AT-12 potentially on the board and coming in the future in the shape of like T-34-85s, Sherman 76s. AT-12 versus front armor 5, even at long range, the best you can do is equal. You can never bounce a shot with this tank against AT-12 or AT-13 or higher, and it's just going right through. AT-5 is, you know, it's one worse than a regular Sherman, a Panzer IV, a T-34, so it's not incredibly bad, but the sides are a 2, which is pretty weak. They share that poor side armor with the Zrínyi because it's the same basic hull. So side armor 2, so even light tanks can threaten these guys from the side. Even 50 cals, for that matter, could threaten and possibly destroy these tanks from the side. And then top armor 1 is what you'd expect for any kind of tank. That's not a heavy tank. As far as soft scores, we have a motivation confident 4+, but it does have a couple of bonuses. It has protected ammo, so its remount is a 3+. And it has the special Hussar rule, which is a Hungarian special rule, which lets them do follow me orders, movement orders on 1 better. So it also does follow me on a 3+. Skill is just a straight 4+, so it's pretty straightforward. Movement wise, it's tactical 10-inch, terrain dash 14, cross country 20, road dash 24, and similar to the T-34, it has a 2+ cross check. So that is something that the Turan can take advantage of. Its movement is pretty average for your typical medium tank, but that 2+ cross check I find is a big difference than a 3+ cross check. It's just that much better. And with a 2+ cross check, personally, I don't fear driving my tanks through woods or across hedges or whatnot. Yeah, you're going to roll the occasional one, but usually you're going to get a platoon across with no problem. So again, that cross check is something that's definitely in this tank's favor. All right, weapons wise, again, you've got the Turan 1 with that 40 millimeter gun, range 24. It is halted rate of fire 2, moving 1, anti-tank 7, 4+ firepower. So think of that gun as like a Sherman gun, not a Sherman gun, a Stuart gun. Anti-tank 7, 4+ firepower. You can't threaten things like IS-2s from the side, and even T-34s with their 5 side armor are pretty safe against you. At long range, all you could do is potentially bail it out. At short range, you have a potential to destroy, but it's very, very low potential to destroy. All right, so, and the 4+ firepower, even if you do penetrate 50% of the time, they're just bailed out. The Turan 2 has a 75 millimeter gun, which has a 24-inch range, so it's still kind of a weak range. It's still outranged, just like the Panzer and Stug outranged the T-34 by 4 inches. The T-34 85 outranges this one by 4 inches as well. With a 24-inch range, it's kind of short, kind of on the low end of the stick there for main gun ranges in late war. But it has halted rate of fire 2, moving rate of fire 1, anti-tank 9, 3+ firepower with the heat special rule. So anti-tank 9 is not the best. It is, pretty poor as far as a main caliber gun for a medium tank. But it does have the heat rule, which does mitigate some of that at long range. So if you're shooting at a target at long range with heat, in essence, your opponent doesn't get the extra armor bonus. So for example, an AT-10 gun without heat and an AT-9 gun with heat, like the Turan 2, both have the same chance of penetrating a, let's say, front armor 6 T-34 at long range. So it's the same, it's going to, the math just equals out. At short range, AT-10 takes over in being superior because there's no advantage of being short range with heat. But at long range, they can equal an AT-10 tank. They also are pretty on par with T-34 76s as far as main gun goes, but without slow firing or any kind of penalty like that. So they're an interesting thing. If I were to rank them among the medium tanks, I would say they're slightly above a T-34 with the 76mm gun. They are slightly worse than a Sherman 76, or sorry, a regular Sherman 75, a Panzer IV. Those guys are going to be pretty comparable, although the Panzer IV with AT-11 is a little bit better. Then it's completely outclassed by the likes of the T-34 85 and the Sherman 76, which are basically your premier medium tanks until we get to late war, but that's another discussion. So are these guys viable in battle? Well, I've already played with them in a couple times actually, and I'm not going to spoil it here, but I think they can be if they are played competently. I think they bring definitely something to the table that otherwise the Hungarians wouldn't have if they're just using like their borrowed German vehicles. Platoon wise, you can take them as the regular Turan 1s, you can take a platoon of up to 5 for 12 points. You can take a max of 3 of the Turan 2s for 11 points. And it really comes down to how you want to run them. If you're going to run the Turan 1s, I think maxing out the platoons, 5 for 11, running them like a light tank swarm might be a viable way to do it. The other neat thing about this to talk about is how the company is structured. You can take either one of those Turan versions as a support platoon for any Hungarian company, or you can even add it to a German company. But you can also take a Turan company in the book, and that's an interesting formation. I kind of really like the formation more than I like the tank. Basically, it has an HQ of 2 Turans, either the 1s or 2s, and then you can take up to 3 platoons of Turans, 1s or 2s again, 1 platoon of either Turans, Panthers, or Tigers. So you can add some pretty heavy hitting stuff in the core formation. You can also add a platoon of light tanks, the Toldi light tanks, and a platoon of the Nimrod anti-aircraft guns. So that is, if you max out that core formation, that's a pretty beefy core formation. If you take 3 platoons of these Turan 2s, that's only 33 points. That's only a third of your force. And it gets you some decent core tanks that you can use. But it has a little bit of everything in that core formation, and that's something I like. It's got your medium tank, and then you can support it with Panthers or Tigers. So that gets you your high-end anti-tank 14 in your list. So if you're facing IS-2s, crocodiles, things like that, you've got something that can threaten them. And then it has light tanks in the Toldi for flanking maneuvers and spearhead and stuff like that. And then it has the Nimrod AA, which obviously gives you air support, maybe to protect your expensive German tanks, and it gives you another formation or another unit to anchor your formation. So it's a really interesting company, and I do look forward to playing it again. And I think there's a couple ways I might be able to run it. So I thought I would do the Turan tank as a unit overview because of that. I just thought it was very interesting. It's a cool looking tank. It looks very mid-war-ish, early war. It's not as cool, I think, looking as a T-34 or a Sherman, but I think it has its own charm. One of the things I like as a gamer, I'm not a power gamer by any stretch of the imagination, particularly when it comes to 40K and Flames of War, games like that do have a competitive scene. I like going to tournaments and playing and meeting new people and things like that, but I like building lists that appeal to me visually and also thematically. So I like this might not be the best tank. It might be terrible in a list, but I like the way it looks. I like the concept of it, and that's enough for me to want to play with it. Whether I continue to play with it or not, that's another thing, but it's something different than your typical German list, and I think that's cool for the Axis powers, because there's only so many ways you can mix up Tigers, Panthers, Stugs, and Panzer IVs in late war. And I know when we get to the late war we'll have more stuff, but that's just more expensive German super weapons for the most part. But again, here with the Turan, we've got something cool, something kind of unique and historical that I think could be fun to play with. And I guess lastly, you might be able to run these guys as a swarm. That could be pretty scary if you took the 40mm version and you ran, let's see, you could run 20 of them plus 5 Toldi light tanks plus the 2 in the HQ. That's a lot of armor to put on the table. And maybe you can just overwhelm the enemy, do tank spam better than the Soviets might. So I don't know, that's an idea as well, but that's a way to get a lot of tanks on the table. All right, guys, there you go. That is a look at the there you go, guys. That's a look at the Turan 1 and 2 tank for the Hungarians in the Axis and Allies Bagration book. I hope you enjoyed this unit overview. If you did, please do consider giving us a like and subscribe. Click that bell to receive notification when we release new content just like this. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and if you like our Flames of War content, please do check out our Patreon, where patrons get access to an exclusive battle report every month. And there are quite a few battle reports there, and these guys will be making an appearance on the Patreon as well. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thanks for watching, and keep on gaming.